Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/AskReddit by Planet Reddit. What myth did a company invent to sell their products? The inventors of OxyContin tried to convince the public that it was an addictive free version of oxycodone. They blatantly lied and were sued for like $500 mil a while back. They were basically the same ads as the ads for heroin back in the late 1800s. Heroin was marketed as a safer, non-addictive replacement for morphine. It's probably an urban legend, as I can't find a source for it online. But I remember reading about a company that sold canned tuna advertising its product as being guaranteed not to turn black in the can. Of course, tuna would never turn black in the can. But by saying it won't, it implied that competing brands did sell tuna that turned black in the can. I heard it won't turn pink in the can, as at the time dyeing the tuna to be pink was what was done and they decided it would be cheaper not to dye it. But still no idea if that is legit or not. Guaranteed not to turn pink in the can was canned salmon. Since canned salmon was farmed salmon, their diet didn't contain the tiny organisms that colored salmon flesh pink. How to sell what looks like defective salmon. Make a slogan. Step 3. Profit. Super late to the game. But ivory soap. So pure it floats. They whip air into the mixture. It has nothing to do with purity. So cheap it floats. There is a reason people like it, which is why it became a thing. The first batch was apparently a manufacturing error. But it's not purity. People just like using it in the bathtub because they can find it easier if they drop it. Alka-Seltzer increased sales by changing the recommended dose to 2 tablets instead of 1. The famous plop fizz marketing campaign was only to increase sales, not based on real medical advice. I'd stop going to the doctor who advises a plop fizz. A counterexample. Wonder Bread was widely mocked for their slogan "Build strong bodies 12 ways", since it was just white bread with some added artificial vitamins. As natural foods became more popular, that was regarded as an advertising myth. However, during the Depression, Wonder Bread prevented pellagra and other vitamin deficiencies among alcoholics who had poor diets, but did eat white bread, and saved tens of thousands of lives in the process. Correct. Fortified rice and other grains still are the go-to in countries other than America. Maybe here too? Correct. Fortified rice and other grains still are the go-to in countries other than America. Maybe here too? Same with iodized salt. Costs practically nothing. The consumer will never notice any difference. And when it was introduced in 1924, the IQ of people with iodine deficiencies rose by 15 points. That your teeth are supposed to be FFFFFF white. I was always a little insecure about my teeth, because they're clean but not very white on account of drinking coffee a lot. I wondered why TF people were going to judge me so harshly for my teeth. And then I grew up and realized no one really cares. They may not be yellow because of coffee. If you are fair, your enamel may be more translucent, which means the dentin can show through. The dentin is either yellowish or grayish. My son is a redhead and has always had yellowish teeth. I thought that we weren't keeping them clean enough. Then I noticed many redheads have yellow teeth. I looked it up. And Viola. An explanation. Nutella told people their products were a healthy alternative. In 2011 I received a notice that I might be eligible as a member of a class action lawsuit because of Nutella's healthy alternative advertising. I filled out the card saying that yes, I had purchased 3 Nutella jars in my region between X and X date, and mailed it in. 3 years later I received a $12 check in the mail with a letter saying this was my settlement. I deposited the check and bought $12 of Nutella to celebrate. Delightfully devilish/positive dabs. That beer will spoil if it goes from cold to hot. Coors started this because they had refrigerated trucks and pushed that always cold thing. In reality, most beer is going from cold to hot multiple times while being shipped out. The real enemy of beer is light and time. Skechers shape-ups made your ass more toned and bigger. I bought the Reebok shoes that claimed to do this. A year or so later I got a check in the mail for I think around $30. Apparently they lost a class action lawsuit that the shoes didn't do what they claimed. Sincere question. When stuff like this happens, how do they know where to send it to? Do you know how they found you? Mentioning JD Power Awards in an ad means something to you as a consumer. JD Power and Associates rated best car in initial quality. That literally means that the car seems nice at first. I like. Initial quality is only based on the number of complaints in the first 90 or 180 days. I don't think that it is adjusted for severity of the complaints. I hear soda companies switched from glass to plastic as a cost-saving measure, claiming they were more convenient as you can just throw them away rather than bringing the bottles back for cleaning and refilling. They then blamed consumers for all the additional plastic trash. I remember many years ago Coca-Cola actually came in reusable plastic bottles. The plastic was much thicker and the whole thing was very sturdy. Still a thing in Scandinavia. You have to pay a little extra for beverages depending on what sort of bottle it comes in. And you get it back when you return it. All stores over a certain size that sells beverages needs to be able to take the empty bottles. You just put it into a machine. It's a very effective system. The majority of plastic bottles are returned. Diamonds are forever. Diamonds are a girl's best friend. 2 months salary. My grandpa used to tell me the story of how he was friends with a guy who created the beverage Talking Rain. The sparkling water became very popular in the 90s and came in a bottle with the story of how the native people of the area found a bubbling spring that seemed to talk as rain fell into it or something. This magical water became the source for Talking Rain. But that was all, of course, just a lie the guy made up to sell carbonated tap water to idiots. Talking Rain. Some stay dry and others feel the pain. Leans away from the mic to breathe. Putting some holes in a cardboard box for a pet rock to breathe was one of the most inspired advertising ploys ever. Freaking brilliant. I love advertisement that people know isn't serious. That stuff works. For instance, the left-handed Whopper and Diamond Shreddies. Oasis, UK, is currently running an interesting ad campaign. The bottles do exist though, but can't be bought. Postum perpetrated the myth that coffee stunts your growth. Smithsonianmag.com link. Edit. By u/schmal. I meant perpetuated. SHHHHH. I do not need caffeinated children. Coffee stunts your growth. Have a cola. That my sea monkeys were going to be my new friends. If it makes you feel better, their creator was a Klansman. Adding, since I was at work and didn't think it would spur a conversation. The sea monkeys were actually brine shrimp. And the brainchild of Harold von Braunert, who made a living in mail order novelties. Namely X-ray glasses. He got the idea after the success of ant farms. And decided to make use of brine shrimp, which had been used as fish food. The shrimp had already adapted cryptobiosis, the ability to dry out and later be rehydrated back to life. Von Braunert worked with Dr. Anthony D'Agostino, a marine biologist, to develop the powder they would come in that would give them the nutrients and salt they'd need in their water. The trick was actually pretty clever on von Braunert's part. Supposedly there were 2 packets. The first would prepare the water, and the second contained the sea monkeys, which would come to life instantly and would be added 24 hours after the first. In reality, the first packet contained the water prep and the live shrimp. The second packet? Blue dye. That would make the already rehydrated and grown shrimp visible. Von Braunert was Jewish but supported his local KKK and attended Aryan Nations conferences. He's been quoted for several racist views I won't repeat here. If it makes you feel better, their creator was a Klansman. I looked him up cause of this and he was a Jewish Klansman. The world is ducking weird. The Disney Vault. Lol. I remember during the pre-streaming days of how big a deal Disney made about pulling stuff out of their vault for the last time. Making a VHS of Dumbo available for a single Christmas season at $29.99. Even then, people had to know that Disney would sell it as long as people bought it. Completely unrelated note. But this is pretty cultural. In Japan, if something says limited edition, you better ducking believe that when it's gone, it's gone. You'll get burned if you come in with a McRib mindset and miss out. People go gaga over that type of stuff. Probably because it actually is what it says it is. The slogan "More doctors smoke camels." implying that Camel cigarettes were some sort of healthy cigarette recommended by doctors. I have an old cigarette tin that advertises, especially designed for sore throats. Menthol. They were originally marketed to sick people. Clover used to be an intentional part of the American lawn prior to World War II. It thrives in poor soil, fixes its own nitrogen and can survive drought conditions, and was deliberately added to assist with the growth of the surrounding grass. Once weed killer came to market post World War II, it wasn't long before chemical companies successfully rebranded clover as a weed. Clover is a broadleaf plant and was unintentionally killed alongside the other unfavorable weeds, so it was successfully removed from the picturesque perfect American lawn by chemical companies. Why grow your own soil regulator for free when we can sell one to you? +11377. Karma? Holy duck, this is my most upvoted post ever. Without clover or other weeds I have no yard. Kerrygold butter originally was just a standard butter that happened to be made in Ireland. They released a marketing campaign about how you shouldn't cook with Kerrygold because it was a fancier high quality butter. It ended up working and international sales skyrocketed. So they used the money to actually improve their product so that it would be as it is today, a fancier high quality butter. That leading gasoline was safe. Smithsonianmag.com link. The guy who invented leaded gasoline also invented Freon. He's nicknamed the most environmentally damaging organism to ever live. Edit. Cause people keep commenting Freon is a brand, not a chemical, it's both. Freon was the name given by Thomas Midgley to his discovered compound of dichloromethanes. It was then classed Freon 12 to be more specific. Freon, the company, then took its name from this chemical as it was what they would originally use in all the products initially. Freon 12 has since been renamed R12 as Freon has been phased out as a name due to the number of different refrigerants. He also accidentally killed himself with a contraption he built when he lost mobility later in life. The man was full of bad ideas. This isn't so much a myth to sell products but to divert blame. Anti-littering campaigns were started by large corporations that polluted heavily in order to shift blame away from them to the individual for keeping the planet clean. Don't get me wrong, people who litter are scumbags. But no one human could produce as much pollution as a factory, let alone an entire industry. Same thing goes for water conservation. A single family uses fractions of a percent of water compared to what industry uses. When you see blame for something shift to individuals, take a moment and look at the broader picture of who the major perpetrators are. Areas to look at: drugs, pharmaceutical industry, water usage, pollution, greenhouse gases, waste in general. All are things we as individuals do contribute to in some way, but that is so small compared to what is actually happening and what companies are doing. This is a little disjointed. On mobile. Can clarify later. Perfect example. Cars and their pollution. At 1,300 feet long, it's not hard to notice the gargantuan profile of a container ship. Even miles out, their immense silhouettes are easily spotted against the horizon. What is less visible is the near unfathomable amount of fuel emissions generated by a single container ship, an amount equal to the emissions of 50 million cars. For perspective, the 760 million cars that are currently operating worldwide emit as much sulfur as 15 container ships running at full capacity. There are currently over 6,000 massive container ships operating globally and 85,000 commercial cargo ships on top of that. Enfas.com link. Which means that even if we reduce the emissions of cars by 20% or so, which is a massive undertaking, it's still not even noticeable since it just represents a puny 3 cargo ships in total. All cosmetics company claiming male and female need a different soap, shampoo, razor. Lately some even tried to apply the gendered marketing to yogurt, toothpaste, handkerchief or pens. Lol, I remember seeing some yogurt being marketed towards men at the grocery store a while back. WTF makes it manly? Is it beef jerky and beer flavor yogurt? You telling me dudes don't like strawberry or peach yogurt? Mincejournal.com link. Weirdly, I imagine the logo is supposed to look like a bull, although female cows can have horns. And the hornless gene is actually dominant, but it mostly just looks like the female reproductive system. I've seen my uncle stir a little beer into yogurt. But he's a weirdo to begin with. Rinse and repeat on shampoo bottles was designed to sell more shampoo. You know how on the bottle it says lather, rinse, repeat? I don't repeat. I did some research on why KFC is the food to eat for Christmas in Japan and found this. According to brand legend, there were some American tourists in Japan during the Christmas holidays back in the 70s. When they couldn't find roast turkey for their holiday meal, they got the next best thing, a bucket of KFC fried chicken. A manager at the local store saw it, told some higher ups, and eventually the marketing team started advertising it as a Christmas tradition to the point that it actually became such a popular tradition you now have to reserve your chicken weeks in advance. Japanese KFC is pretty friggin' good and my bucket even came with a commemorative Christmas plate. Dockers invented business casual to sell more khaki slacks and help get men out of wearing suits to work as much. Thank God for that. My question: anytime someone brought up dress code when people have the choice to dress down, they do, i.e. Casual Friday, so who exactly are we dressing up for? Edit. A lot of people seem to equate casual with slob. You can still look nice in a pair of jeans and an open collar shirt. That vitamin water is healthy. I actually tasted vitamin water a year before it was released. It tasted very different, way less sweet. No one actually liked it. So, I don't know if anybody knows this. Big tobacco companies have their hand in more than just cigs causing cancer. The reason horrible cancer-causing flame retardants existed in almost all foam inside furniture for decades was because of these companies. In the 1970s, the government was trying to force big tobacco to make the self-extinguishing cigarette, because it was the main cause of household fires at the time. People falling asleep with a cig in their hand. You get the picture. Well, big tobacco made a bunch of shittily conducted research, as well as spread propaganda for years that it wasn't the cig, which they didn't want to change at all, but that furniture is poorly insulated and catches fire easily. So, skip to about 1990, and people start realizing all these carcinogens are in breast milk, and huge ppm counts of bad shit in humans, caused mainly by people living with this degrading flame retardant coated foam. Firefighters' cancer rates also skyrocketed because of this. Smoke death due to the fire retardant burning also spiked. It took something like 10 years or so for a shitload of lawyers and legislators to finally get the law changed in California, the last state requiring flame retardant coated foam. And even then it's still being battled because the chemical companies that sold the flame retardant make so much money off it. It's a much deeper and richer story, but I don't wanna go that far. TLDR, the reason carcinogenic chemicals existed in all foam padded furniture was that big tobacco didn't want to admit that cigarettes cause fires. My dad was a building code inspector. When I would talk to him about his smoking, 3 goddamn packs a day, he'd quip that there was more arsenic and carcinogens in the furniture and carpets than he smoked a day. The ironic thing about your comment is that pure tobacco cigarettes naturally go out by themselves. The tobacco companies add potassium nitrate to their cigarettes to keep them lit, so they don't have to make self-extinguishing cigarettes. They just have to stop making non-self-extinguishing cigarettes. Edit. So, I quit decades ago. Didn't know about the FSC standard, which has added larger rings to cigarette paper to create extinguishing points if the cigarette is ignored. However, cigarettes are still doped with potassium nitrate to promote burning otherwise. When I was a kid, they used to sell a premium brand of cigarettes with colored papers to be distributed at weddings, etc. I forgot the brand and can't find a reference. They used to advertise that they were additive free, and therefore would go out if not smoked, as compared to regular cigarettes. Also, there are wide bands that will extinguish a smoldering cigarette. But I was thinking of the many closely spaced narrow rings in cigarette paper that are there to promote even circular burning patterns. The 1970s fondue craze in the US and Europe was generally started by Schweizerkäseunion, the Swiss cheese union, which is a cartel of cheesemakers which controlled the cheese output, in type and volume, of all dairies in Switzerland. It was formed because of a cheese surplus that had built up during World War II. and they wanted to limit supply. So a cartel was formed. After a couple decades of controlling supply, Schweizer decided to push the demand side of Emmental, that's the familiar Swiss cheese with the holes in it, by a marketing blitz. They knew of this dish called fondue, which was sometimes eaten in the Alps, and started advertising it abroad as if it was somehow the national dish of Switzerland. In the 1980s, the Swiss government started to wonder why it was subsidizing a cheese cartel, and there were also suspicions of corruption. Around 1990, the Schweizer collapsed, and the free market opened up, and dairy farmers could thus make whatever goddamn cheese they wanted, above board, for the first time in 40 years. Edit. Typos. Water memory to sell homeopathy products. The colorful flowers in your yard are actually terrible weeds. Spray toxic chemicals on your property weekly. But I like dandelions. Plus you can eat them. I agree. My country home, which I'm getting ready to sell, has a yard full of purple dead nettle, dandelions, violets, mulberry bushes, and mock strawberry which birds and bunnies love to eat. The house I'm moving to in the city is much cleaner yard wise. But I'm not going to treat the dandelion infestation. I like them. Women love the smell of an entire can of Axe body spray, which was believed by every teenage boy for years. They also used to give those trial-sized cans out by the ducking case in middle and high school. Our entire locker room always reeked of that shit because we would take full cans of it and slap them with our track spikes and they'd shoot off across the locker room like a rocket. They also made Ask Me Anythings in flamethrowers. Our locker rooms were like Baghdad back in the day. Axe bombs are all fun and games until you're taking a shit and a can of Dark Temptation rolls under the stall. Edit. Holy shit. My first Reddit gold is about middle school locker room warfare. Thank you, kind stranger. Literally any company that claims detoxifying properties. What toxins? Your kidneys do that for you anyway. And liver. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.